Hi guys, I'm Mike, and this is an intro. Alright, this card is Sheltered Aerie. I might have said that wrong because I'm not actually quite sure how to pronounce that last word. So if I butchered it, yeah, sorry about that. But this is a 3-drop, 2 colorless, a green, enchantment aura, specifically for lands, that says, Enchanted land has tap, add 2 mana of any color to your mana pool. Now, this is one of the cards that I actually have a personal fondness for because I actually like this effect on lands that make them much more useful. But this one is actually a little better than most because, well, for example, the old one that is the standby is Fertile Ground. For 2, you get 1 extra. Or the one out of Mirrodin, which was a simple reprint of Dawn's Reflection, which is actually Fertile Ground times 2. It's just double the mana, but you get 2 for 4 instead of 1 for 2. And then there was a few other variations, such as the less decent Verdant Haven. It was reprinted in 15, but it was from Theros as well. 3 for 1. You get 2 life, but it's kind of a blah card because it doesn't really match the curve. As well as Abundant Growth, which fixed the color of the card you drop, but didn't add anything. But it was also a 1-mana cantrip that fixed the color. So it was decent in my opinion. I quite liked it just to get more cards in hand. But made sure I got the right colors. For the most part, though, these are the 2 kinds of cards that works really well with this. But this is 2 for 3, which is actually a better curve than any of the other cards I showed. Because it just does more for a little less. Now, in the long run, that's not a really big thing, but I like enchantment decks. I like to swarm them out and just drop them in quickly, because there's a lot of interesting abilities. The fact that they fixed your mana curve in a 5-color deck, which is where I run my enchantments usually, is very versatile. I'm probably going to put this in. Now, the downside to this one is it only fixed for 1 color, because the 2 it produces have to be of the same. So that's a little less versatile, which is probably why they put it down to 3 instead of 4, because Dawn's Reflection, you get 2 mana of any color combination you want, which is very powerful and completely worth keeping. But altogether, if you put all 3 of these on a single land, your choice if you want to or not. If someone's running land destruction, I would not recommend it. But then again, if someone's running land destruction, you should kill them immediately because they're running land destruction. They deserve it. Now, I will fully admit this card review is very biased because I have a personal enjoyment of enchantments in general. So keep that in mind. But yeah, the one card though that makes any enchant land kind of broken, at least when it produces mana, is Arbor Elf, or specifically any card that untaps land. Why is the camera moving? Whatever. This one specifically is a 1-drop elf that untaps target forest. As long as these 3 enchantments are on a forest, you're going to get a lot of mana out of it. Easily 6 mana out of the first tap. Another tap this guy, untap the forest, and you get another 6. 12 mana for 1 land, 4 cards, well, 5 cards. But still, that is actually a really good curve. At that point, you can hard cast many of the creatures in the deck. Any deck, actually. I mean, Emrakul is probably one of the few creatures I can think of who can't be cast this way. And even then, another enchantment will probably make it high enough that you can get it. Which isn't hard, because one of my other favorites that has to be on a forest specifically, Utopia Sprawl. A 1-drop enchant forest. Now, you choose the color and it sticks to that color, so it only fixes it a little. But even then, that would up it to, okay, well, just 14. So you're still 1 short, but you should have more than 1 land by this point. But yeah, the entire setup of cards that enchant lands to increase mana, that was a really awkward way to say it, but yeah, I find them very versatile because I also run an enchantment deck. But Sheltered Aerie out of Dragons of Tarkir, if I said that wrong, I apologize. I'm going to butcher the word. But yeah, it's quite useful for what it does. And the 3 mana curve makes it much more easy to cast than the 4, just because usually when I get mana screwed, the 3 range is usually where it stops at for some reason. I can take a hand that will take 3 lands, and this is usually good. A 4th one I may or may not ever get. When I'm running enchantments, though, that's not usually an issue. I usually have plenty of green, and the enchantments fix my mana base. But that's just me. Overall, the downside is if you don't have green, this card's not going to work well. And if you have someone in your meta group who is really good at enchantment destruction, it's not going to work well because it's an enchantment. And it's useful, so someone will target it. And of course, land destruction takes out the base. Thankfully, land destruction is not too common, or at least in my metagame. If yours is different, keep that in mind. That's the important measure. As long as you play it well, usually stack up the enchantments and untap them in turns, you can get a lot of mana for very little work. But I wouldn't recommend trying this if you don't have a lot of green, because this works on a deck that has a lot of colors that it needs, specifically not green, but you need to have a green base as the main one. If you're running something that focuses on other colors and has green splashed in there for this, that won't work out well because you need to have the green. If you don't, this card is not for you. It will probably backfire. Short of that, though, in a deck built right around it, like every card, they work better that way. So yeah, I'd recommend this card, but if you don't have a deck that works well with it, it's not your loss. You can do fine without it. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment. Yeah, later.